It is pretty dry now, and you can see how this animal lane looks like. I have just been lowering the string and also the bend to indicate to the horses, please do not get in here. It was high and they learned how to go under it, and now with the lowered they should get the message. Again, this is not yet hot. In order to make it hot, we want to cut below the fence, and for that we use the mower attachment of the BCS and then do that. And after that has been done all around, I can then go in a second round and make this a plus-minus fence. So plus-minus means the minus part is what usually is the ground in single strand installation, or let's put it this way. So where the ground is the negative pole that goes back to the energizer. And in a plus-minus fence, you put a string up there deliberately, or a physical fence element, and connect that to the negative pole of the energizer. So when the ground is not conducive to electricity, that solves the problem, because the fence would be ineffective if you don't do this. And in our case, the ground does not is not conducive to electricity anymore. So we definitely have to do that. But the horses know what a fence means, and therefore there is no immediate need to do this. This is enough to tell them, please don't step in here. But once there is a lot of green on the other side, of course this might change, and then one of the horses might push and try to get to it. And at the very least they will try to reach into it with their neck and with their head, and then something might break. So in order to avoid that, this is going to be electrified, but in a proper way. And for that, there will be some mowing, just between the fence posts. And as I move ahead, I can also show you a little bit how this animal path looks like. So they have been trampling here a narrow path. They walk single file, and I am following that path. And you can see what we have here. And this, by the way, is the neighbor's land. That is where the bad tenant a couple of years ago. And it has been vacant since then. Well, not used. There is still something going on. And they will holler when there is something to report, or when they have changed their mind. They know that we might be collaborating on something, but so far they have not contacted me again. And I don't intend to push the matter. There's no point. So here I still have to do a little bit of touch-up. This is a little bit short, and I will reconnect it there by using a regular string. I carry enough stuff, but I'm just fixing that with something so that it's attached and will not slip. This is not the electric installation yet, like I'm saying. This is just to send a message. So this makeshift way of doing it should do. So now the bend stays in place and creates a visible barrier. I leave this there so that I can use it in a few days. And here I think I can improve this a bit. And also there is an issue. So this is a little bit too destroyed, and I will put this up so that it looks nicer and also sends the message to the horses, please do not get in here. They have not been in here, or else this would be visible. So this is all okay, but the stuff is made in such a way that it is too low. So an adventurous horse might even step over it. So let's prevent that from happening. And I just was in communication with Angel, and tomorrow there will be a lot more wobblers here. So basically this whole field will be done, and maybe partially also the second one, which is then the last one that we have to do. And then this thing in a manual fashion, using the shut-off valves over there, is then operational. So we can irrigate, but we have to come here. The next step will then be to automate this. And for that, additional material is on order. So, this is now closed also. Now the sun hemp and friend can grow, and there is no immediate risk of the horses getting in there while this is still small. So that bought some time. And like I said, there are two ways how we can cut below the fence. One is with one of those string trimmers that has a rotating knife. We have one, but it's broken. I ordered a new one. And the other way of doing this is using the mower of the BCS. So one way or the other, this works. I don't like gas-powered machines, and that includes the BCS, because it's something kind of a work to do, a task to do, and actual work. So one needs to dedicate time to that. And I am jumping between so many things that this is usually not very helpful for me. So either Angel will do it, or I use the string trimmer with that knife attached to it and do every now and then a little bit. While I go for a walk, this thing is light, I can just carry it around, and it's a lot easier for me. So this is the general problem. I happen to do other things, and when I'm tired of these other things, being stuff like programming or administrative things, I like to go out and check on things and maybe do something, but it has to be light. So usually I don't get to be the farmer, and it's also not my intention. I rather design things and organize stuff so that other people like Angel or hired help here and there or some volunteers can then get to play. Because one has to do the stuff that I mentioned also. So that means I try to use tools that are easy for me to handle and don't need being prepared or maintained, or I have to put on proper clothes and protective gear and all that. So I rather just grab a hand tool and make something quick and then put it away. Of course, this is not like a farmer would work. But then this is not a production farm, and therefore you can understand why I'm so eager to have things automated as much as possible. And I like the fact that animals, unlike plants, will figure things out. So they find food, they just need to be guided. And one way of guiding them is by having fences. So if the fence works and the animal understands its meaning and does not challenge the fence, then the animal will walk along this path where I am right now and will go to the next place. This has worked very well in the beginning when those fences were well built and maintained. But then things happened and the fence stopped working because elements of it were broken and nobody figured that out. So we will not do the same mistake again, and therefore all this right now is as it is. Everything is open. The horses can go in and out as they want, as they please, and they do some grazing that is helpful. Of course, they wander around, and that's okay. So basically they have a whole supply for the whole summer of forage. Of course, it is not the most nutritious one, but horses are used to that. So that's not a problem. If they were cows, that were a different thing. And therefore, this does work in the lazy way. And eventually, when more things have been automated, we can then think about how to introduce animals again in such a way that we do not have to do daily chores. And here, for example, the fence will be simplified. You might be able to see that this is basically a fence behind another fence. So one will be removed. So we're going to build this in a smarter way again. And then we introduce animals. And animals here in that Miyawaki forest will be chicken in the beginning. Any kind of poultry, we will see. And there I also have an idea to automate the shelter for the night, which also happens to be the nesting boxes. So let me open this. So first one, and this one now needs to be closed. Okay, so before I turn this on, I can finish explaining that. So the idea is to have some nesting boxes that also double as shelter, and overnight they will be locked in there so that they are protected, and then we keep them in there, and it's important that this is also an insulated place until they have laid their eggs, and that happens usually between sunrise and the beginning of the afternoon. So then we let them out, and then they can roam in the forest and do whatever they like. Or else we have eggs lying around all over the place in the Miyawaki forest where we cannot enter and find them. So therefore, I think this is a smarter way to do this. But we have to see how this actually goes. So I'm trying this a little bit with those Araucana hens that we have, and if I keep them until noon locked up, I will find eggs. Or else I have no idea what they are doing. But I might be wrong. It might be that they really got now where to put their eggs, and it's just that there was a pause. So I need to make a little bit more experience to learn about that, and later we will then scale this up and probably have a mix of different breeds so that the egg colors are mixed, or we only have the blue ones. It depends what people like to buy. So there's plenty of time to learn and figure this out, and that is what we're going to do. So now that I have a connection here on my phone, I can turn on the water, and with some luck I can show you that. So far I have not been lucky. My connection is too weak. I need to go to the other side of it. There I know the connection is better. So see, there is another reason to build a network here, which is work in progress. And once the devices have shown up, then I think we have a connection here that is so good that eventually we can also have a camera here. And of course then you guys might also be able to watch. And someone had this idea, chicken TV. Yes, sure. Once we have chickens in different places, of course there will be chicken TV. So I like the idea. So they can watch in real time what's going on. Because the connection will be there. And then it's not a big issue. The big issue is building the network in the first place. And that is also something that requires monetary resources. So now I'm getting a little bit of a signal, and in a moment I can certainly then turn it on. So you can see this is trying, but it's not yet working. So I need to walk a little bit. So the pump is now on, and soon there should be water coming out of these wobblers. And while that happens, you can look over the fence. Of course, this is not the camera that allows me to zoom in, but you can see how things look like here. This is the place where It was planted at the very beginning. They are not as tall as the plants further in. So over there, of course it's now in the distance, there is a lot taller growth. Also there. But again, this is the little Osmo with the very wide lens. I can see that there is water coming now. So soon the pressure builds up and then they will wobble. Let's see. Let me take you to the other side. So there it is coming, but it is not yet wobbling, but it is getting stronger and stronger. And you can see that the other plants are also growing, but nobody is taking away the light. So far that is working out very well, and I believe it will stay that way. In a couple of days I will fly the drone again and show you then a detailed view from the top, where we can better appreciate if the spacing between the plants is good enough so that everybody gets light. So the wobbling has started, and soon all these wobblers will then rotate. The ones that are there in the back, see, now this one here has started. So it takes a moment for the pressure to build up, and then they start rotating. Another one over there, right there where the sun is. Okay, now it looks like all are wobbling. So this is now as it should be. And yes, I started to irrigate at night. The reason is that there is a lot of evaporation, because the nozzle that we use is pretty fine, in order to not use that much water, because it's a forestry plantation after all. And the other problem is, well, we have to run the generator, and the 700 watts that this type of irrigation currently uses, well, I can spare while I'm running the generator. If I had no other reason to run the generator, then I would not do this. Then I would try to do this during the day. And in this current situation, it is better to use the generator. And you might ask why? Well, the reason is our batteries are too small. We have only 60% of the original capacity left. That is because we discharged them a few times too much and too low. And maybe also the heat over the last 2 years were not really helpful. So these batteries need to be replaced. And then we can switch to a different technology that then allows us to build more and more storage capacity. And then eventually we can run irrigation at night out of a battery. But this will be step by step. So we will get to that point that we can run irrigation at night or in the early morning, or at a time like right now when it is a little bit cooler and the sun is going down. Because yes, evaporation is an issue. So it definitely helps to do this when the sun isn't there. But you need to have the power. And in the past, some of you remarked that we should do irrigation at night. Yes, you are right. And I answered, I don't have the power. So right now, I do have the power for 2 or 3 hours that I have to run the generator. But I cannot do more than that. So if I run it now, let me check the clock. So right now it is almost 9, 2100 hours. So by midnight I want to be sleeping and not wait till 1 o'clock in the morning to turn it off. And our generator is manual operated, so I have to step outside and turn it off. And also, of course, there's the noise, and I'm wasting the generator and all that. So it's a bit limited, but right now we make do with what we have, and hopefully in the near future, it's a money issue as you might guess, we will have then a lot more storage capacity. But besides money, there is one other small detail. We have postponed a lot of these things, but a few things we do have to do. So we need to run a cable from the cortijo, where eventually the batteries and all the other technology will be housed, back to the temporary house. The underground cable that we put there in the past is not good enough for that, so we need to run a much thicker cable, which will then be the main power line. And once that has been done, then we can start moving batteries or replacing them with a better model. So better model means lithium batteries, and then we can increase their capacity in steps. Of course, I'm also looking at some alternatives like batteries from an electric vehicle and stuff like that. But it's not so simple because it has to be compatible and it needs to speak the right protocol. So the charge controller or the battery controller or the BMS, the battery management system, has to be of the right type so that it talks to the SMA inverter that we already have. So there are a lot of things, and if people think, oh, you just use that, and then it will not work, because there is no universal standard for that stuff. So we have to look carefully, and some mistakes can cost a few €1,000 or dollars. So it is better to stick to the recommendations and not play around too much, unless you happen to be an engineer who knows these things in and out. I know software, I don't know that kind of things. So there I can understand and talk enough to be dangerous, so I know enough to be dangerous, but it's being dangerous. So I rather let the guys who know about that recommend me a solution, and batteries have come down in price, which is very good. So I guess soon, once the dependencies have been resolved, then we can proceed and have more storage. But by then we will get rain again, so this is then for next year. But it's a good thing to have this in place and be prepared. So now that I'm walking here, I can also show you some other new thing. So this lock here, the double gate, we have so that the dogs will stay on the inside and we don't have a problem when we have vehicle traffic. That is why we built it this way. And I show you something new the moment I have this closed. So the new thing is this mast there. So there is a new camera down here. So that little one shows us what is inside the lock, and then the cables need to be arranged a little bit better, but that will happen soon because we have to take it down one more time. So then up there's a box, and in that box is a power supply and a switch that provides power over Ethernet to all the devices, and there on the top there is another camera and Wi-Fi access point, and that camera there at the top points in that direction so that we can oversee that area and also a little bit of the easement. The camera has very high resolution, so that provides a lot of detail, and we know what's going on, and also why these guys are barking, because that has been always a big question. Why are they barking? And now there is an easy way to give us an answer. because we just need to look at the image that the camera there on top is providing. The one at the bottom will not tell the answer because that's only inside. So this view basically. So now I am showing you the same thing that this camera shows. And eventually this here to the right will be the entrance to the house, which will sit over there. Therefore this part of the fence is temporary, while the one to the left is permanent. And on the permanent side there will be some wine growing. So by January we can then plant wine, but we also have to have irrigation there in place. Now that I'm back in the farmyard, I can also show you this here. So these are the palovnia trees that suffered from the frost in early May. And this one here in the center has come back very well. And also those that were affected by some other accident, they are also coming back. So there, where the shade is, right there, there is another one that is coming back. It's still very small, but that got broken and it is coming back. I had to cut another one over there that won't start making leaves, but I hope it will come back from the root system. And right now, this, you see the sensor there at that point, it is measuring 16%, which is pretty low, but you can see how lush this looks like. But then of course the ground is also pretty open, and my idea is to let more things grow, therefore I'm now irrigating. I cut this regularly. Soon I will cut it again. Of course this is not yet grasses that I would love to have here, but they should be moving in as much as I cut the other stuff down to level the playing field, so to say. So all this should turn into a green area, and they are the remnants of the yurt. They will also soon be gone, and then we can put some Bermuda grass seeds there. But the work on the irrigation system is a priority. And then we will regroup and reassess where we want to go to. And one more thing. You see some leaves that are not as beautiful as the others and they get a bit yellowish. So I would think this is related to the low moisture. And they are not old enough so that they can't reach down there. And the fact that the pond is still full does not really help. So I'm getting a little bit wet. So here's the pond, and it might be full, but that does not mean that they can actually take advantage of it. We are making puddles here, and I'm getting sprinkled on. So here now I'm at a safe spot. But this will just evaporate. And it needs roots, living roots in that soil, in order to let the water also permeate from here, the pond, to the other side. And that takes a while. So while this is work in progress, irrigation is required. And probably some deep-rooted plants like sun hemp would also help here. But it requires a mechanical intervention first. And I guess we will do some of that once the structure there has been completely removed and we can now do some soil preparation in here. So that fellow is something new. It's the first time that I see one here. Let's see what we can do to get a better picture. So here's the little fellow. life is coming back. Makes me very happy.